Hi, it's time for another verb of the day. Today's verb is repair. Let's look at a few definitions. The first way the verb repair is used is to mean to fix or mend some object that has suffered damage. This is probably the most common way you hear the word repair used. Another way the verb repair is used is to mean to improve a damaged relationship or unwelcome situation. This usage might be a little less familiar to you, but it is common to talk about repairing friendships or repairing a work relationship. A third meaning for repair is to restore or renew by any process of making good, strengthening, or something else positive. The best example I can think of for this usage is when people talk about repairing their health. So maybe they change their diet, they start to exercise more. So they're trying to strengthen or make their health better. So that might be another less common way you hear the verb repair used. Repair is a regular verb. To make the progressive form, all we need to do is add ing to make repairing. The past tense and participle forms of the verb are made by adding ed to the end. And because this verb ends in a voiced sound, r, repair, the ed is going to make a d sound. Repaired, repaired. You might be happy to know or to see here that we're not going to talk about any phrasal verbs with repair because there really aren't any that are used or that significantly alter the meaning of the verb repair. So instead, let's look at making some sample sentences with our verb repair. Today, we're going to compare simple future sentences in the active voice to simple future sentences in the passive voice. So all this week, we've been talking and practicing passive and active voice. And you might remember that one of the differences between these two ways in which we communicate, in the active voice, we start a sentence with the person or the thing that's doing or is responsible for the action. That person that's doing the action might not be present in a passive voice sentence. And that could be because we don't know the person who's doing it, or it just doesn't matter. But instead, we really want to focus on the object or person that's receiving the action. So those are two differences. But what I'm going to do is take an active voice sentence and we'll change it or manipulate it into passive voice. So you may remember in active voice, simple future, we can communicate this tense using will and then the base verb. No changes to the ending. So an affirmative example of that is the sentence, roofers will repair the roof next month. So we have will and we have our base verb. If we want to use passive voice, though, our verb structure will change just a little bit. We're going to use will, then be, and then the ed or participle form of the verb. So in this case, it's going to be will be repaired. And one thing I should point out that's kind of nice about using will, it's always going to stay the same no matter what the subject is. So a bit easier to remember. Let's look at the same sentence that we used in the affirmative, but we'll make it passive this time. The roof will be repaired next month. So the roof is receiving the action. It's receiving the repairs. We don't know who's doing it, but we could probably make a guess about who might be doing the repairs. Next, let's look at making negative sentences. First, in the active voice. For negative future using will, we are going to insert not right after will, and right before the base verb. So our negative active voice will always be will, not, or the contraction won't, and then the base verb. Here's an example sentence. Workers won't repair the road for several days. If I want to make this passive voice, I'm going to follow about the same structure. We're going to use will not, then be, and then the participle form of our verb. Here's that same sentence, but in passive voice. The road won't be repaired for several days. Let's look at making a yes or no question now. In active voice, we start with will, then our subject, the person or thing doing the action, and then the base verb. Will mechanics repair your car later this week? In passive voice, we're going to start with will, and then what comes next is the object or the thing that receives the action, followed by be and the participle form of the verb. Will your car be repaired later this week? We might just be making the assumption you're going to have a professional, an expert who works with cars, make the repairs. Next, let's look at some words that are related to our verb repair. The first is a noun form of the same word, same spelling, same pronunciation. And the meaning of the noun is the action or act of fixing or mending something. So you can see it's very connected to the verb. You're likely to hear the noun form in plural. Many people, even if there's just one thing broken, it's very common to hear people talk about repairs. And that's going to be in my example sentence. The library is closed for repairs. You might see signs with similar messaging occasionally at a store, restaurant, or other place of business. Another word you might hear is repair person. And I think it's more common for you now to see this as a two-word phrase. But when this word first started being used about 30 or 40 years ago, it might have been more common to see it in a compound or one-word phrase. And really, the reason this exists is so that gender, male or female, isn't automatically communicated. So for many hundreds of years, you might have heard the phrase repair men and then slowly repair women. Now, we can just say repair person, and that will count men or women. And that's a person whose occupation or job it is to make repairs, to readjust, to fix things. Here's an example of that. The apartment complex hired a new repair person to help with maintenance. Another related word is repairable. It's an adjective, and it means able to be restored to a good condition. Here that is in a sentence. Structural engineers said that the bridge is repairable. So it is able to be fixed, another way to say it. The last related thing I'm going to talk about today is an idiom beyond repair. And in many ways, this is sort of opposite of the adjective we just talked about, something that's able to be restored. Beyond repair means that something is so damaged or harmed that there's no possibility of it being fixed. So we can talk about objects or things that are beyond repair, but we could also go back to that second definition where we talked about relationships also being beyond repair. Let's look at an example. This is something that I've read in the past week, and it made me think I should include this because you might be hearing similar comments. Some say that the police system is beyond repair. So in last week's videos, I talked about abolish because that was a word I was hearing and seeing in current events. And so that sort of, again, kind of connects back to this idea. Our current organization, we just can't make small changes to make it better. We're going to have to do something completely different in order to perhaps have a better system. Thanks so much for watching today's video. I hope you have a great day.